When we imagine the word drama, a lot of us envision works like Shakespeare's Hamlet or other live action plays and films. Whenever we think of animation, we normally think of things like Disney films or animated television series like SpongeBob SquarePants. Even though a lot of us enjoy them with our kids or sometimes by ourselves, we fail to associate animation with dramatic merit that is held by live action performances. Today, my name is Angela Hines, and I will be discussing with you the dramatic elements that we can observe in live action dramas compared with the same elements that can be observed in Miyazaki's animated feature film Spirited Away. In order to prove that serious drama can be expressed in the form of animation, first we'll begin with a dramatic element that's called exposition. According to Meyer, a device that provides background information about characters and circumstances. The first thing that we're going to discuss is dialogue. Estlin reminds us that we as an audience have to provide meaning through the dialogue in a movie or play. The first thing is Chihiro, and she is talking with her mother about moving to a new house. She seems reluctant, afraid, and her mother seems a little bit irritable with her. The next example is that Chihiro goes with her dad to the park, and she doesn't want to go because it's an abandoned theme park, and Chihiro seems reluctant to go inside the theme park, but her dad calls her a scaredy cat and goes without her anyways. The last example of dialogue in the beginning of the film is whenever Chihiro's father and mother sit down and start eating the food that's set out, and they haven't paid for it and they don't know where it's coming from. Chihiro, once again, is very reluctant to eat the food, and she's whining, saying that they shouldn't be doing it. But the dad just says that he has cash and money so that Chihiro shouldn't worry about it. The meaning that we can put behind this is that Chihiro is a very young child, around 10 years old. She's afraid of change because they're moving to a new house. And we also know that she comes from a wealthy family who also is a little bit emotionally neglectful. Another thing that is in live action performances that normally we don't really recognize in animated performances is body language and facial expressions. One example would be that Chihiro is fidgeting in the back of the seat of the car in the first scene. Another one would be Chihiro tugging at her shirt whenever she's reluctant to go into the theme park, and also Chihiro scowling at her parents whenever they're eating the food. So what we can take from all of these expositions is that Chihiro is a restless child. She's also very afraid of starting over new, and her parents aren't really helpful towards that. They just kind of do what they want to do. So at this point, we have enough background information about our main protagonist, who is Chihiro. So now we're going to talk about the next dramatic elements. That would be rising action, climax, and falling action. According to Meyer, a rising action is the complication that is created between the protagonist. So this would be things such as the theme park turning into the spirit realm and forcing Chihiro to be stuck in the spirit realm until she finds a way to change her parents back from pigs. And also whenever Chihiro meets Yubaba, who is the antagonist. Another one would be when Chihiro meets Ra, who is Yubaba's baby, and No-Face, the monster. According to Stan, both Ra and No-Face would be foils, because they are actually characters that contrast with the protagonist in order to help her grow and change. With the rising action comes the most critical point in the story, which is the climax. According to Meyer, it is a turning point that has a very powerful effect on the protagonist. This can be seen whenever Haku makes a deal with Yubaba to set free Chihiro and her parents with the safe return of Ra, which, as I said earlier, is Yubaba's son. Another example will be whenever Ra is actually returned safely, and Chihiro beats Yubaba's puzzle in order to bring her parents back from being pigs into the human realm. According to Morris, The climax is directly in accordance with something called the falling action. The falling action is whenever the story has neared or reached its resolution. This can be seen whenever Chihiro crosses over to the human realm from the spirit realm and doesn't look back. At this point, she's back in the human realm and she's reunited with her parents who don't remember anything that happened. Both of them can be seen continuing to go back to their car out of the theme park and then back onto their journey to move into their new home. Now that I've gone over the characters and plot, we're going to discuss some of the themes of Spirited Away. Themes are messages that the author wants to convey. One of the main themes in Spirited Away is adolescence to maturity. We see this from the very beginning of the movie to the very end. At first, like we said, Chihiro is childish, she's afraid of starting over new and moving to her new house. But then, once her parents get taken and turned into pigs and she's stuck in the spirit realm, she learns how to get a job and work. She learns to stay calm and just think about plans in order to try to save her parents. And then eventually, she succeeds in saving her parents, is reunited with them, and at that point is ready to move and start over with a new life with their new home. Another theme of Spirited Away is the blurred line between good and evil. This is something that we can see in almost every single character in Miyazaki's film. Usually, in dramas, there is a clear distinction between who is good and who is evil. But in Spirited Away, we see both the good and the bad sides of pretty much all of the characters. For example, Yubaba, who obviously is an evil witch and, takes in Chihiro as her worker and turns her parents into pigs, but at the same time we can see her compassion for her son Ra. No Face, who is a spirit that we see eating people and being crazy, is also a very tame spirit once he gets out of the way of any kind of negativity. Lynn, who ends up being Chihiro's friend, at first is very reluctant to help her and thinks that she is just a pain because she's a human. And one of the best examples would be Chihiro. We can see Chihiro being whiny and complaining and reluctant in the beginning of the film, but as we go on, she grows well-mannered, she's helpful, and she's also very bold. Now that we've kind of deconstructed Miyazaki's animated feature film Spirited Away, we're able to see all of the dramatic elements that go into the story. So next time that you go to see a cartoon or animated film, maybe you won't shrug it off as childish and pointless, but rather take the time to really recognize all of the dramatic elements that go into its story to define its true merit.